Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for holding this very important hearing and for being here this morning. As you mentioned, both of our states are feeling the impact of drought and climate impacts, and I know that this is legislation is an example of how some of the best and brightest are working hard at solutions on the local level, so thank you for having a hearing on S1694. And before I start, besides thanking the witnesses that are here from Washington, obviously representatives of the state, the tribes, the agricultural community, and the fishing interests of our state, we're also joined by Yakima County Commissioner Michael Latte and Yakima Nation Council member Gerald Lewis. So thank you both for being here as well. S1694, the Yakima River Basin Water Enhancement Project Act of 2015, is critical for the state of Washington and for new water management, and I believe it's a management model for the entire West. This legislation is a major accomplishment for people who've been working on this issue for decades. Drought in Washington and across the West has caused billions of dollars of impact this year alone, and it's predicted to cost billions more in the coming year. In a report released last July, the White House concluded that confronting climate catastrophes require taking prudent steps now to prevent more severe consequences later. I couldn't agree more. As the Yakima Basin faces continued drought and climate impacts, the federal government has a responsibility to act now to prevent future impacts and costs in meeting its legal responsibilities in the basin, which include managing extensive Bureau of Reclamation projects, treaty and trust responsibilities with the Yakima Nation, and federal responsibilities in managing lands. Failure to act, I think, as mentioned, could have catastrophic economic impacts, and moving forward with an ounce of prevention could go a long way. Some of the issues here affect some of the most impacted agriculture lands and productive agriculture lands in our country, as well as some of the most important sockeye salmon runs in the United States as well. So S1694 authorizes the initial phase of a long-term water resources plan for the basin and recognizes the responsibilities and the imperative to act now. The bill would dramatically enhance the sustainability and resilience of the basin, from snowfield streams in the Cascade Mountains to the farms of the Yakima Valley, which are famous for apples, cherries, hops, and wine. And the Yakima Integrated Plan is designed to provide a balanced approach to long-term water supply and environmental issues in the basin. It will provide more dependable water supplies to meet agricultural and municipal needs, and will significantly restore the fisheries and ecosystems of the Yakima River and its tributaries. The plan was developed through extraordinary collaboration between local stakeholders represented by the witnesses here today. This work group includes state, local, tribal officials, agriculture interests, environmental groups, and I have to say, it's amazing to see how much progress they have made working together. They have really created a bond, which I think is exemplary in keeping the task at hand. Working together, they have developed an integrated approach to managing water that could not be accomplished without cooperation. And the result is what is before us today, a holistic approach. Without this plan, the Yakima Basin will face continued water shortages and economic impacts estimated by the state this year to reach $1.2 billion in crop loss. This summer, the basin is facing unprecedented drought, and in some cases, irrigation districts are delivering only 25% of normal water supply. So low stream flows, warm water throughout the basin are also threatening fish such as steelhead and sockeye salmon, and protection of these species is critical to our community and particularly important to the Yakima Nation. Science tells us that drought conditions are likely to persist in the basin in coming years, and low snowpack and heat are predicted to intensify with climate change and are likely to become the new normal. So the Yakima Integrated Plan puts in place the necessary steps for the future of the Yakima Basin. The state of Washington is already investing in the Yakima Integrated Plan. Just last week, the state appropriated $30 million for the plan after approving $137 million in the last budget. And in spite of severe budget constraints, the state recognizes that investing now to avoid more economic loss in the future or environmental impacts is critical. The Bureau of Reclamation's statutory mandate to manage the basin's dams, hydropower facilities, irrigation infrastructure, and legal requirements to manage stream flow for tribes and other needs means that the federal government is part of the solution. Without an integrated approach in the basin, the federal government will face significant challenges, including litigation, cost and meeting responsibilities. So it's good to see Mr. Eisman here today, and that in his testimony, he supports an integrated approach, as you say in your testimony, which includes water storage, water conservation, stream flow management, fish passage, habitat improvements, and providing for the best opportunities of moving forward. So S 1694 does just that. It includes improved infrastructure for water storage and conservation, ecosystem restoration, and construction of permanent fish passage. So nearly every component of this plan will help both farmers and fish in the Yakima Basin. Projects will provide water to support the region's $3.2 billion agricultural economy, while also restoring salmon runs that have been blocked for more than 100 years. So this includes helping to restore one of the largest sockeye salmon runs in the lower 48. Because of local interests and their willingness to sit down to make a plan, I hope that this does become a model for integrated water storage plans and holistic approaches. I do think it's a new paradigm in water management that could be replicated in other parts of the country. Here in the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, we hear of divisive water conflicts in other parts of the West, leading to gridlock, which is ultimately destructive to the economic and environmental opportunities. And I think this approach puts us down a different path. So I look forward to hearing the witnesses today, and again, thank all the local individuals who've worked so hard on this project at moving it forward to where we are today in this legislation of 1694. And also want to thank my colleague, Senator Murray, for being an original co-sponsor on this legislation. Thank you.